I thought I had it all figured out. 20 years of marriage to Sarah, 2 incredible kids, a house in the suburbs of Portland, a stable career as a software engineer. We were not flashy, not perfect, but we were solid, or so I believed. Every morning I would wake up next to the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. We had built a life together, raised Ethan and Lily, survived job changes and family losses. I trusted her completely. That Tuesday afternoon in March changed everything. One accidental conversation at a coffee shop unraveled 2 decades of what I thought was truth. I wish I could go back to the moment before I knew. Before I tell you what happened, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let me know. If this story resonates with you, or if you have ever faced something similar, please hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And subscribe to this channel, because I share real stories from real people. Stories that might help you navigate your own struggles. This one might be hard to hear, but I need to share it. Let's continue. It was a Tuesday in March. Nothing special about the day. I left work early because I had a pounding headache that would not quit. The office had been stressful lately, deadlines piling up, meetings dragging on. I just wanted to go home, take some medicine, and lie down. But first I needed coffee. I know that sounds backwards when you have a headache, but coffee always helped me. There was a Starbucks near our house, just a 5-minute drive from the office. Portland weather that day was typical. Gray skies, light drizzle, the kind of rain that was more mist than actual drops. I pulled into the parking lot, grabbed my jacket, and headed inside. The place was not crowded. A few people sat scattered around with laptops and books. I ordered my usual, a grande dark roast black, no sugar. While I waited, I glanced around, and that is when I saw her. Jessica. She was sitting alone in the corner booth, staring at her phone. Jessica had been Sarah's best friend since college. They met at University of Oregon back in the late 90s and stayed close ever since. I knew Jessica well. She had been at our wedding, been to countless birthday parties for our kids, spent holidays with us. Seeing her there was not strange. What was strange was the look on her face. I grabbed my coffee and walked toward the door, planning to just wave and leave. But Jessica looked up right then and saw me. Her eyes widened a little, and she called out my name. Her voice had this odd quality to it, shaky, uncertain. I walked over to her table. Up close, I could see she had been drinking. It was only 3 in the afternoon, but there was a faint smell of alcohol on her breath, and her eyes were slightly red and glassy. She asked me to sit down. I hesitated. I really just wanted to go home. But something in her expression made me stay. She looked troubled, like she was carrying something heavy. I sat down across from her. She did not say anything at first, just kept looking at her phone, then at me, then back at her phone. I asked her if everything was okay. She let out this long breath and said she was having a terrible day. I nodded, tried to be supportive. I figured maybe she had a fight with her husband or something at work. But then she started talking about friendship, about how long she and Sarah had known each other. 23 years, she said. 23 years of friendship. She started talking about secrets and guilt, her words getting more tangled and emotional as she went on. I felt uncomfortable. I did not understand what she was trying to say. Then she asked me a question that made no sense at the time. She said, "Do you ever think about the past? Like really think about it?" I told her, "Sure, everyone does." I thought about the good memories, the early days with Sarah when we were young and everything felt new. Jessica laughed, but it was not a happy sound. She said not all memories are what they seem. The air between us shifted. I could feel something coming, something I was not ready for. The noise of the coffee shop seemed to fade. All I could hear was Jessica's breathing, uneven and shallow. Then she said it. She said she could not keep it inside anymore. I asked her what she was talking about. She started telling me about the year 2003. The year Sarah and I were dating seriously, the year before I proposed. She said Sarah had been seeing someone else during that time. I felt my stomach drop. I told her she must be mistaken. Sarah and I had been exclusive. We had talked about it. We were serious. But Jessica shook her head. She said she was there. She saw everything. The man's name was Derek. He was a physical education teacher at the elementary school where Sarah worked. Jessica said they had an affair that lasted 6 months, from May to November of 2003. I proposed to Sarah in December of that same year. I do not remember leaving the coffee shop. I think I mumbled something to Jessica and just walked out. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my car keys. I sat in my car in the parking lot for what felt like an hour, maybe longer. The rain picked up, drumming against the windshield. I kept replaying what Jessica had said. Derek. 6 months. 2003. I tried to find holes in the story, reasons why it could not be true. Maybe Jessica was drunk and confused. Maybe she had mixed up Sarah with someone else. But deep down I knew Jessica was not lying. The details were too specific. She knew Derek's name, knew where he worked, knew the exact timeline. I could not drive home yet. I could not face Sarah, not without knowing more. I pulled out my phone and just stared at it. I thought about calling Sarah, demanding an explanation right then, but something stopped me. If I confronted her without more information, she could deny it, make up excuses, twist the story. I needed to be sure. I needed facts. So I sat there in the parking lot, rain pouring down my coffee, going cold in the cup holder, and I tried to think clearly, but my mind was a mess. 20 years. We had been married for 20 years. We had 2 children. We had a mortgage, shared bank accounts, a life built together. And now I was sitting in a Starbucks parking lot wondering if my entire marriage was based on a lie. Eventually, I drove home. It was nearly 5 in the evening by then. Sarah's car was in the driveway. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The house smelled like dinner cooking. Sarah was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for a salad. Ethan was upstairs in his room, probably doing homework. Lily was at the dining table, working on some art project. Everything looked so normal, so peaceful. Sarah looked up when I came in and smiled. She asked me how my day was. I told her I had a headache and left work early. She frowned, concerned, and asked if I wanted some medicine. I said no, I just needed to lie down. Dinner was torture. I sat there at the table with my family, trying to act normal. Sarah talked about her day, about some issue with a student's parent. Lily showed me her drawing a colorful scene of a forest with animals. Ethan mentioned something about his upcoming basketball game. I responded when I needed to, but I felt like I was watching everything from far away, like I was not really there. I kept looking at Sarah, trying to see if there was any sign, any hint that she was hiding something. But she looked the same as always. Calm, warm, present. How could someone lie for 20 years and look so at peace? That night I could not sleep. Sarah fell asleep quickly, like she always did. She was lying next to me, breathing softly, completely unaware of the storm raging inside my head. I stared at the ceiling, going over every memory from 2003. I remembered that year clearly. We had been dating for about 2 years at that point. We were both in our early 20s, figuring out our careers, talking about the future. Sarah had been busy that year. She often came home late, saying she had meetings or teacher training sessions. I had trusted her completely. It never even occurred to me to question it. Now, every late night, every unexplained absence felt like a piece of evidence. The next day, I called in sick to work. I could not focus. I could not pretend everything was fine. After Sarah left for school and the kids went to their classes, I went out to the garage. We had boxes of old stuff stored there, things we never threw away but never looked at either. I found the box labeled college and dating years. Inside were photo albums, old letters, my journal from back then. I sat on the cold garage floor and started going through everything. There were pictures of Sarah and me at the coast, at parties, at friends' weddings. We looked so happy. But now, looking at those photos, I wondered if she was thinking about him when those pictures were taken. Was she comparing me to Derek? Was she wishing she was with him? Instead, I pulled out my old journal and flipped to the entries from 2003. I had written about Sarah a lot. About how much I loved her, about how I was planning to propose, about how excited I was for our future. I wrote about times she seemed distant or distracted, but I had always attributed it to stress from work. Reading those entries now, with this new knowledge, felt like reading a completely different story. I had been so naive, so trusting. I felt angry at my younger self for not seeing the signs. But how could I have seen something I was not looking for? I needed more information. I texted Jessica and asked if we could meet again. She responded quickly, saying yes. We agreed to meet at a park the next morning. I barely slept again that night. When I met Jessica at the park, she looked sober and serious. She said she felt terrible for telling me, but she also felt relieved. She said she had been carrying this secret for 20 years, and it had been eating her alive. I asked her to tell me everything she knew, no matter how painful. So she did. Jessica explained that Derek was 28 at the time, a few years older than Sarah. He was charming, athletic, popular with the staff and students. He and Sarah started spending a lot of time together planning school events, working on the sports program. At first it seemed innocent. But then Jessica noticed changes in Sarah. She was happier, more energetic, but also secretive. One day, Jessica saw them together at a restaurant across town, holding hands. She confronted Sarah about it. Sarah admitted to the affair but begged Jessica not to tell anyone. She said it was just physical, that it did not mean anything, that she still loved me. Jessica told her to end it and tell me the truth, but Sarah refused. The affair went on for months. Jessica said she tried multiple times to convince Sarah to come clean, but Sarah kept saying she would handle it, that she would end it soon. Finally, in November of 2003, Derek got a job offer at a school in California and moved away. The affair ended not because Sarah chose to end it, but because Derek left. A month later, I proposed to Sarah. She said yes, and she never told me about Derek. Jessica said Sarah had confided in her that she felt guilty, but she also felt like it was in the past and there was no point in bringing it up and hurting me. Jessica went along with it, keeping Sarah's secret, but she said it had haunted her ever since. I asked Jessica if there had been anyone else, any other time Sarah had cheated. Jessica said no, as far as she knew it was only Derek, and only during that period. I asked if Derek knew about me. Jessica said yes, Derek knew Sarah had a boyfriend, but he did not care. He was not looking for anything serious. It was just a fling for him. For Sarah, Jessica thought it was more complicated. She said Sarah genuinely loved me, but she was also drawn to Derek in a way that was hard for her to resist. When Derek left, Sarah saw it as a sign to commit fully to me, but she never gave me the choice to decide if I wanted to stay with her, knowing what she had done. I spent the next week in a haze. I went to work, but I could not concentrate. My boss asked if I was okay. I told him I was dealing with some personal issues. At home, I tried to act normal around the kids, but I could tell they sensed something was off. Ethan asked me a couple of times if I was mad at Mom. I told him no, everything was fine, but everything was not fine. I was falling apart inside. I looked at Sarah every day, and I could not reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the woman who had lied to me for 2 decades. She went about her routine, cooking, helping the kids with homework, chatting with me about mundane things, completely unaware that I knew. I found myself looking through old phone records, old emails, anything I could find from that time period. I even searched for Derek online. I found him on social media. He lived in San Diego, was married with kids, seemed to have a normal life. I stared at his pictures, trying to imagine him with Sarah. It made me sick. I thought about contacting him, asking him for his side of the story. But what would that accomplish? The affair had happened. Jessica had confirmed it. Sarah had admitted it to Jessica back then. I did not need Derek to tell me what I already knew. What I needed was to confront Sarah. But I was scared. Scared of what it would do to our family. Scared of how the kids would react. Scared of the logistics of divorce, of splitting our lives apart. But more than that, I was scared of hearing Sarah's excuses, her justifications. I knew she would try to minimize it, say it was so long ago, say it did not matter now. But it mattered to me. It mattered that she had taken away my ability to make an informed choice about marrying her. It mattered that our entire marriage was built on a foundation of lies. I decided I had to do it. I could not keep living like this. I chose a Friday night. I asked a friend if the kids could sleep over at his house. I told Sarah I wanted to have a quiet evening, just the 2 of us. She seemed pleased, thought maybe I was planning something romantic. After the kids left, I asked Sarah to sit down in the living room. She smiled at me, still clueless. I felt my heart pounding. I said I met Jessica last week. Immediately, I saw the color drain from her face. She knew. In that instant, she knew exactly what I was talking about.